Tess, rumor has it you've made vacation envy a real thing here in Whitefish.
Guilty as charged. At Outside Metro, we've got everything from cozy downtown lofts to lakeview retreats, even barns with pickleball courts. And with over 500 five-star reviews, you really can't go wrong.
What? Okay, I'm already packing my bags.
Just make sure you book direct, Julie, and save on those booking fees at outsidemetro.com. That's where the good stuff happens.
Done. Outside Metro, and stay where the locals play. The IWD406 Podcast, where Montana women are heard, celebrated, and supported. I'm thrilled to invite you to join me with award-winning artist Audrey Hall for a whole conversation of stories and talking about art, curated to inspire, delight, and challenge your beliefs about personal reinvention and creativity. Now, if you're struggling to find a practical purpose for any new pursuit or questioning its importance or consequence, this episode is for you. And if you've ever caught yourself thinking, I'm too old for this, or I'm not creative, maybe I don't even know where to start, or any other limiting belief holding you back from pursuing your passion, this episode is absolutely for you. Audrey will share her personal experiences with creative expansion and growth for a fulfilling life, while debunking the myth that creativity has an age limit. She'll open up about her own process, fears, and vulnerabilities, and offer some ideas for moving forward through both success and failure, all while navigating the world of specialization with a fluid, flexible approach honed over 3 decades in the arts. This conversation will leave you inspired, grounded, and ready to rediscover your creative self. Welcome to the podcast, Audrey.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be here with you.
Just going through your biography, it is unbelievable. Do you ever sit back and just reflect on your life and what you've done?
I've been doing that more lately because I lost my mom last year. And I think when you lose a parent, especially your mother, it puts you in a position to really reflect on your relationship with your parents, reflect on as life unfolded. So I've been thinking about that quite a bit. And one evening, I even recounted my most vivid memories that I had from, I did this before I fell asleep one night. And it was like the first memory I ever had. And then I tried to go year by year. What were the standout memories and what were the years that sort of I didn't really remember anything from 3rd grade, which is odd because I remembered vividly like things from 1st grade and 4th grade. But I went through year by year, through school, through college, and into starting my career. And then I think I fell asleep.
That happened.
Yeah, I was having a hard time falling asleep that night. So yes, I think I have been reflecting quite a bit. And then when I created this talk at the request of a friend of mine and in putting together the keynote presentation, that also really made me reflect and dig in.
Wow. Yeah. And that's good because I do want to ask you, I'm going to throw something out at you. I can't remember probably before, maybe little tidbits before 2nd grade. Can you remember before 2nd grade?
Yes.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I remember my earliest memories are probably from when I was maybe 3 or 4.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, and I want to ask you, and this is my start for the interview. You weren't born and raised in Montana. Where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Brazil. My dad is American and he was teaching abroad at the point where I was born. And then we ended up moving back to Michigan because he finished his teaching about abroad program. And so we moved back to Ann Arbor and we always then started summering in Montana.
Okay.
Cook City
Okay.
is where we went
Yellowstone.
to. Yellowstone, the Yellowstone area. And then we would go back to visit Brazil. So we would go to Brazil usually to visit, usually at Christmas. And then summers, we came out to Montana. And then when he retired, we moved out west. Yeah.
Okay. And so your mom from Brazil.
She was from Brazil. Yeah.
Did she speak the language to you growing up? Are you able to speak the language?
She did. It's odd because when we moved to the US, when my dad finished his teaching abroad program and we all moved to the US, she didn't actually know any English. So she had to learn English as a second language moving here. And it's funny because the peer pressure is like a kid. So we spoke in Portuguese and in English up until I started school. And then once you start school, it's interesting, like the peer pressure, like you don't want to be different than the other kids. So I basically stopped speaking Portuguese and went to English only. And now I feel like I'm no longer conversational unless I'm in Brazil, and I've been in Brazil for maybe a month.
Okay.
Then it starts to come back, but it's not like I could just pick up here and be conversational like immediately.
Oh, yeah, you got to be immersed in it.
It's in my brain in some dusty corner, but not enough for me to access.
It's a wonderful thing that you were raised with that. I think that's awesome. So now your dad, he was teaching what?
He was teaching mechanical engineering at the University of Michigan.
Wow. Okay. So you grew up near Ann Arbor until how old did you go through school all the way into high school?
No, when I started grade school, we moved out west.
You moved out west. It's because you did have a summer home here in Cook City, correct?
We had a summer home, and actually at that point, we did not have a summer home. We were just staying at the Must Rest Motel every time we came out. And then we ended up moving to Bozeman and building a little place in Cook City.
Wow.
Yeah.
To have something like that's a gift. To have something like that's a gift. And were you in Ann Arbor, there's a little bit of ski, and there's some ski hills up that way, up in the Midwest, further up north. Were you a ski person? No, none of that.
Okay. No, my dad was a big hockey fan. He was a Wolverines fan. So we went to the hockey games. We had a little house in Ann Arbor in a neighborhood. So yeah, we weren't outdoorsy in that way, except for the real gift that my dad, or one of the real gifts that my dad gave me and as a kid, and probably my mom too. My mom is incredibly strong and resilient, but the experiences of going to the Beartooth and Yellowstone every summer, to have that as a young girl, and in the way that it was for kids back then. I don't know if my husband and I don't have kids now, so I don't know if it's the same way for kids, but to just be let loose to run wild in a very wild place is pretty remarkable. And I think that it informed my character a lot. And I wrote a song about that experience, and then now making a documentary that basically that studies or follows the stories, family stories for girls. Okay, wait, I got to back up a little bit. The song I wrote is Dear Western Sky. It was inspired by this experience of coming out west every summer with my parents and how that sort of formed me as an individual. And then I realized in talking to other friends who'd had similar experiences that my story wasn't unique. And so I decided to do a documentary that shares the timeless resource that wilderness is through these stories, family stories with young girls and multi-generational, just like families, fathers exposing or bringing their daughters into the wilderness or having wild or outdoor experiences. The whole idea of go out inside and play.
But you're playing in Yellowstone.
And the Beartooth.
Yeah, that is remarkable. We raised our kids and we went to Yellowstone numerous times. I didn't as a child. My mom and dad did not travel or go to national parks, but we wanted that for our kids. So I can only imagine the distinct differences between how if I would have gone as a child versus what my kids experienced. Everything's more regulated, more contained. You have to set up a guided, you can go hiking, but it's pretty much tourist area in those areas. You were able to go out and go fishing on Yellowstone Lake, do all those fun things when you were younger. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, we stayed fairly close to the Cook City. So the Lamar Valley area, we fished Trout Lake all the time. I remember I knew my dad taught me how to clean a trout when I was like 5.
Wow.
I learned how to like thump it on its head and clean it out and rinse it. And then my mom would cook the fish for dinner. We would very frequently go, there's a picnic area that's no longer there, but we would go probably 4 times a week and picnic for dinner with the Lamar Valley bison.
Wow.
We would take Jeep rides throughout the Beartooth and go fishing in all those high mountain lakes. And I was always allowed to just run and experience. And it was like I had a lot of elbow room growing up.
I think that's wonderful. What was your first experience? I know what my first experience was seeing a bison in person. What was that like for you?
All the animals, I think, not just the bison, but all the animals, just being in a wild place with wild animals is such a unique experience. It's like you realize, and reflecting on it as an adult, like it's 2 different things. Like when I reflect on it as an adult, I think wild animals give the landscape its soul. It's like there's a beauty to the landscape, but the real kind of soul of it, like the heartbeat, excuse me, I think is in the wildlife.
Yeah. You wrote that in your book. I know folks listening in, she has an outstanding book available on Amazon. It's called Bison Portrait of an Icon. And the foreword I thought was beautifully written. Audrey, I loved your dedication to your parents. And it speaks a lot about what your dad's influence and your mom's influence. And I want to kind of dive deeper into that and then we can go into exploration of the beginnings of your career. Because it is remarkable. The span of your career over the last couple decades is unreal. But I want to know a little bit more about that influence from your parents. Can you talk to me a little bit about your dad's influence as a mechanical engineer and then what you wrote about your mom?
I feel like I have both of them equally mixed into my personality. And so photography, when I discovered photography, I felt like it resonated with me because it can be very technical, but it can also be very creative. And my mom is an artist and my dad was a mechanical engineer. So I feel like I have both sensibilities in me. And when I went to college, I went for architecture school, and I thought that would be the marriage of art and creativity. And I love architecture. I love interior design. I photograph a lot of it. But what I realized that there's other aspects of my personality that just really weren't suited to architecture. So when I stumbled upon photography, it really felt like the right thing for me. It's the right thing for my sensibility.
So I want to back up. So when you went through high school out here in Montana, up in the Bozeman area, and then you wanted to pursue an architectural degree, right? At what college?
I was at MSU, at the architecture department there. And then I went for a year abroad to Scotland. And that's when I stumbled into photography. And when I was in Scotland at the Glasgow School of Art, I talked my way into the photo department. So that year I was studying both architecture and photography. And then I came back to Montana State and to finish my degree. And then, because I'm such a practical kid, I was a practical kid. I'm still a somewhat practical
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
Some level of me, it's probably the dad part of me. I decided to work for a year, to apprentice for a year in an architecture firm before I totally threw in the towel.
Okay. Got you.
Because I thought, geez, I've been in school for 6 years. I better at least give it a go to make sure that it's really not what I want to do.
Yes.
Like my mom was like, you really should be an artist. And I was just like, I can't eat paint. And I saw her, she was an artist, and I saw her struggles as an artist. And I just thought, dang, I don't know. I only saw the struggle. I didn't see the joy, or what I perceived as the struggle.
Okay. What type
Right.
of art did you do?
She was a painter.
She was a painter. Okay.
She was a
got
painter, and then she was a sculptor, and then she made dolls for 15 years and became like one of the like top doll makers in the world. And then she won the highest honor you can win for doll making. And then she said, oh, there's nowhere to go from here. So she then quit making dolls and went back to ceramics and sculpture and pottery.
Wow.
And at the end of her life, she was painting.
Wow.
Yeah, she
Remarkable.
painted. She was working on a painting the week before she died.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just want to say this because I know it's interesting that your mom, see, when I went to college, I was an art major, and then I became an art history major, and I was pre-law. Reason being is because throughout the process, my mom was like, you are going to be a starving artist. There is no way that you're going to be able to make a living. Your mom was the opposite.
She was the opposite. She really was like, I think that you should study art. And I was like, how am I going to get a job? And like I said, I was really practical. Super, I don't know what I was afraid of. So I thought architecture was like this great compromise. So when I quit, I knew she was biting her tongue to not say, I told you.
Okay.
But I got to hand it to her. She did not say, I told you, but I know she wanted to.
Isn't that amazing how our parents know us so well?
Yeah.
Like down to like the way that we think and what drives our joy, which is really fascinating. So let me ask you this. I want to know, when you took that class, the first class you took in photography, was that when you were in Scotland?
No, I took it at MSU because when I got the scholarship, so I got a Rotary scholarship. There was one given in the States, and somehow I got it.
Which is a big deal. It's huge.
It was a huge deal. And it was for both graduate and undergraduate work. Highly competitive and in a million years didn't think I would get the scholarship. And I applied on a lark. And then I got it. And part of the requirement of the scholarship is that you go to these Rotary clubs where you're going and you speak about where you're from. It's considered a cultural exchange. And I thought, and you have a year to prepare, like you have a year before you leave. So I thought, Montana is such a visual state. Like you can't really talk about Montana without showing it on some level. And I had my dad's old camera, and I thought I should take a class so I can use this thing. Cause it was like a manual film camera where you had to set your aperture and your shutter speed and your ISO. And I didn't know anything about that. So I thought I'll take a beginning photography class and I'll learn how to use this camera. And then I can have a slideshow as part of my talk. And same thing, when you come back to the US, then you speak at Rotary clubs throughout the state of Montana, and you speak about your experience and what you learned when you were away for a year. And there was something that just clicked with everything about the camera, everything about the process. It just clicked.
Wow.
And
did you process your own film?
yeah,
Holy buckets.
you process your own film. You like made your own prints. It was like darkroom work. It was like the whole thing.
It's unreal. It's
It
super
was the
fun.
whole thing. It was really fun.
So when was the moment that you knew you were good at it?
I didn't necessarily. It's funny because it's the one time in my career that I was like my mom, where I reserved any judgment. I was just learning and experimenting, and I was just trying things. So I did not at all put things in a good or bad camp.
Okay.
And what's interesting about my mom and her work, and what was so incredible about what she did, is she never had any judgment about her own work. She just made it.
Okay.
She just made it. And sometimes she'd be like, oh, this is interesting. But she would never say this is great or this is bad.
Okay.
And the painting behind me is one of hers. It's one of her older ones, and all the sculpture behind me.
Wow.
The house is just full of her paintings and sculpture and dolls. It's like she was truly prolific and extraordinary. And I find, because we're all so quick to judge other people's work, judge our own work, and she just loved learning and loved making things. And at that point, when I was learning photography in the very, very beginning, I was happy that something resonated. I was happy to find that connection, because I think when you're a kid, a lot of ways you're just, or maybe I'm just general. I'm speaking for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And you're so young. How do you know what you're going to do for your whole life when you're 18?
No one knows.
And you may love something when you're 18, and it just may not be your jam when you're 40 or 50. And my mom was always really fluid. She just followed her curiosity. She just made things. She reserved judgment on her work. And therefore, she was not a tortured artist. She just truly rooted in the process and found a lot of joy in it.
But your dad, let's flip the script on this. He's probably practical, mechanical engineering, very processed. You have to have an end goal. And that end goal has to produce something, right? So there's
he was really brilliant, and he was very creative in his own way. He had a number of patents. He was an incredible problem solver. In the days that they were developing TVs, they were having an issue of, I don't know, it was like getting the picture tube in the glass thing or something. And they didn't really know how to solve the problem. And he was at the University of Michigan at this time. And he realized, he basically came up with the idea that you could use centripetal force in order to place this. He did all kinds of crazy things in his career. He was highly creative. He was also rooted in his process.
right.
Like, he truly loved what he did. And you know this because on his free time, he was like making things. Like, one of the things that he made in his free time was this wheelbarrow for a boat that was made with a carbon fiber some light frame that had a bicycle wheel and an odometer and handle brakes. And we would wheel our boat up the side of the mountain to Trout Lake in Yellowstone so that we could fish in the lake from the boat. And it was like this, like the other fishermen were like, what the heck is that? And he had the odometer because he was curious. He's like, I want to know how many trips and how many miles I've gone or whatever.
That's super cool.
So he would just push the boat up the mountain because he was like, this is the only way. I want to get the boat up the mountain. I don't want to fish from shore. I want to fish from a boat. And so he like made this contraption, and that just was his spirit. He was also really into organic gardening at that point. And so he built like all these different combination of like shades and screens to like for the frost and to keep the birds away and from his strawberries. And he was an interesting man and also super creative.
And I love those two the duality of it. You have your mom who is a flow in the flow process of whatever comes out may be. We're not looking for some outcome. We're just going to go with it. Then your dad has more of a problem solution, but finding the creativity in solving some problems or creating a solution. So your brain then now has this duality piece, right? You've got the side, and then you've got the structural piece, right?
Yeah.
So now walk me through, you graduate with an architect degree. Now you've got this I'm really the bug for photography. And you're getting good at it. It's technical, but it's creative. What was it? What was your first job as a photographer?
I can tell you. So I quit. So I apprenticed for a year and then I quit, figuring that I could always go back to architecture. I could wait tables. There's a lot of different ways that you can make money. So I just thought, I'm going to take my chances and just give it a whirl. And my first job wasn't actually a photography job. My first job was a photo assisting job.
Okay.
And I actually did it I was photo assisting a little bit as I was also shooting. But the first photography jobs were all portraits. I entered in the field through portraiture and eventually then wedding photography too.
Okay.
Back then. That was like the entry. And I was also doing some photo assisting. I was working on films and commercials as a production assistant, as a wardrobe assistant, as a location scout. And I balanced doing my work and developing my craft with the production work, which was very much adjacent. I call it art adjacent. And that would help. I could work anywhere from a couple days to a couple months on a project and then basically fund my life so that then I could develop my craft.
Wow.
Because if I was just shooting back then, I would not have been able to pay my bills. And doing something that is adjacent and also like temping in a way made it easier to make the transition, because sometimes I think if you have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job, that doesn't give you a lot of like mental or physical bandwidth
Yeah.
to pursue another career.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the type of person that you are. But for me, it worked a little bit better to have something that got me really close to what I was doing, that I learned a lot from, that it was like temping. So it's, oh, you're on this commercial for a week or whatever. And then you don't have to work for them. And then you just dive into the photography part of it. So that's how I started my career. And then eventually the scales tipped and I was doing more photography than like film production work. And then there came a point in time where I quit doing all the production work.
Can I ask you? I know there's been films filmed here. Did you have to leave Montana to go pursue those types of roles?
No, I did everything pretty much in Montana. I was producing for Marlboro, a clothing line called Marlboro Classics for many years. I was the US producer for their catalog. They did 2 catalogs a year, basically fall, winter, and spring, summer. And I started off with them as a wardrobe assistant. And then I worked my way up to the US producer. And we would work usually in Montana for winter and then New Mexico, Arizona, Texas for
Okay.
summer.
Got you.
So
Wow.
I would travel with them.
Yeah. Lots of peopling.
Lots of peopling. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Which is, I think, is interesting because I think seeing your breadth of work and the landscapes that you've done, did you like to do portrait photography? Was that something or did it get old? Was dealing with people and all the multiple layers of getting a photo shoot ready for a portrait or a presentation of people, was that a lot? Was it too much?
I do enjoy doing portraits
Okay.
for sure. It's funny because the nature of my work really changed. So in the beginning, it was a lot of portraits and weddings. I started phasing out of weddings first.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. Probably the biggest one is I've never been much of a wedding person.
Okay.
It was just like I wasn't the teenage girl dreaming about her wedding.
I hear.
So I'm not really a wedding person. Yeah, I just felt there's such little Montana summer that I didn't want every weekend to be It was crazy. It was like you're booking so many weddings, and then every weekend is full. And then during the weeks, you're just buried in post-production.
Yeah.
On some level, it was film, but it's still looking at all the proofs, making the albums, taking the orders. It just is a really time intensive. And then I just felt then your summer was just gone.
Yeah, it is. It's
So,
short.
yeah. So I phased out of that. I still do portraits, but it's a pretty different, in a really different nature. I don't want to say I do celebrity portraits, but I'm more selective about the portrait work that I do now. And then
Okay.
I do a lot of architecture and interior work, which I really love. So I have the background in it and I enjoy it because I enjoy working with the crew. It's really fun to see the homes. I love seeing people's collections of art. The clients are really great. There's a lot that's really great. When I'm shooting commercially, it tends to be mostly architecture and interiors, occasionally editorial work if the feature is something that really resonates with me. So I just shot a feature for Western Art and Architecture about Rocky Hawkins and his wife Kat, the artist Rocky Hawkins, and I just adore he and Kat. And I was like, this is great. I'll be able to go and spend the day with them and see what they're up to and see his new paintings and see the new studio. And his place is like epic. He repurposed all of the old outbuildings on the place that they bought and made like a small Western town. And they live in like the hotel. It's like a hotel storefront, but it's like a home. It's extraordinary. Like their place is extraordinary. So things like that where I'm like, that just sounds like a lot of fun. I'll do features occasionally. They're sprinkled in. And then occasionally I'll do portraiture.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I want to go a little deeper, and we're going to go into the creative process because I think that's something that I want to explore with you. And you have fantastic ways. And I know you've done a lot of keynote speaking and you've talked about the creative process. And I want to get there and I want to walk through it and what can happen for people that are creators like yourself. But one of the things I want to ask you, and I didn't ask you in the interview guide, but now that we're having this conversation, can you see in your work from starting off portrait, being a temp, dabbling into maybe your first few jobs in the wedding industry, portrait work for some clients, and then shifting to more of that architectural shoots, which you light up when you talk about it. So
Yeah.
clearly that was something that you probably were meant to do for your life in your career. You can see it in your face when you talk about it. Can you see the evolution even in the way that you shot? Like you can tell me, I did like doing portrait once I shifted into architect. The whole way I shot things changed. Can you see that?
I think that because I studied architecture,
Yeah.
there's just something that like I understand the language of it. And so I think that just informs my work
Right.
when I shoot it. Because I've done editorial work in the past, it all relates. I've shot a lot of like travel essays, travel pieces, which kind of take it all. Like you need to do some architectural work, you need to do portraits, you need to do landscapes, and you need to do like food and vignette. So you're basically taking all the principles of creativity and aesthetic that you've learned and you're applying it in one realm.
Okay.
When you
Gotcha.
do a travel story,
Okay.
which they're really fun to do too. So I think that the big thing for me is architectural and interior work there's an ease to it. I think because I understand the language and because I enjoy it and I am able to see how to do it. It's also really contained on some level. So it's super intense when you're on the ground working, but the back end of it isn't so cumbersome that you just get bogged down for days
Right.
sorting through 5,000 photos or 7,000 photos. Like I did a friend's wedding, and I think we had 7,200 photos. It took forever to edit. So there's something about that is nice too. It speaks to the part of me that wants to do something and move on. Wants to finish a project and move on. Like, I don't want to dwell on it forever.
Yes.
And I suppose if you were to do portraits all the time, then the editing process, I think for some people is probably much quicker than for me, because I'm super detail oriented. So that's probably where I get bogged down in the editing. It's like getting too much into the nuance or to the weeds. But if I was doing it all the time, I think I would just naturally become faster.
And you can see through what I love about photography and looking at people's collection is you can see the eye, because I can only envision how they're holding the camera, what they're targeting with their field of vision. And you can get into their head a little bit by looking at their work.
Yeah.
What they wanted to capture. And then I'm assuming, since you're so skilled at it, and you also have all that language, all that education in your background, you can go into a shoot and efficiently knock it out pretty quickly because you know what to look for, I'm assuming. And your eye is already engaged into what it is that you need to capture. Is that right?
Yeah. And a lot of times I always start with those jobs with the pre-scout. So I have a plan of attack, either a pre-scout in advance or a pre-scout the day of. So it's like that work is pretty methodical. Some of the most fun and challenging work, though, have been with documentaries.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, where you're on the fly and you're not controlling anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's like to have the fluidity and the flexibility to be able to go from something that is super contained, really controlled,
Yes.
pretty much planned. There's elements that are beyond your control, like the weather is a big one in the architectural world. But for the most part, you know the scope of work and you know how to problem solve for different lighting situations or issues, or when you've had the experience, you know what you're in for. And there are pretty clear parameters.
Right.
When you go into shooting stills on a documentary, none of it is really in your control. And you're just flying by the seat of your pants and getting what you can get and really having to think and work in a more intuitive and immediate way.
Okay.
Which I think is also really beautiful and fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes I'm the anti-specialist.
Okay.
In the world of specialization, when they're like, you should do one thing and do it really well forever and become like the best at it and the top of your field and win the whatever. I probably speak to the anti-specialist, the more fluid approach of creativity, and to, on some level, follow curiosity and opportunity and things that sound interesting and things that just sound like an adventure or fun.
And I love the fact that you're able to be that flexible and dynamic, but also other people see that in you and then they want to work with you. And what I can only imagine, if you've got that, if you were stagnant and if you weren't dynamic and you just became the expert at the one thing, it's great. And then you do have people that want that. But clearly you have been sought after. You've done some amazing things. Architectural Digest. You did some work with Vogue, right? Way back in the day.
Way back.
In the day. That's different. PBS, Sundance Films. So you have this versatility and you're proving that through experience and people working with you. Has there been any major highlights that stand out to that you're like, wow, that was a really cool thing I was a part of?
Oh, many. I feel like I've just been lucky.
But I don't think you're
lucky.
lucky.
I think I'm lucky. I think that I've just been open, and there's been crazy things. Like I was photographing the Tour de France the first year Lance Armstrong. Wow. I don't know if we can technically say he won now, but The first,
That's
when,
dicey. Yeah.
yeah, that was like crazy. And how that job came about was even crazier. That was just a highlight. And working with Nick Kristoff and Mauro Tremaya from Show of Force Films on A Path Appears, that documentary, it was a 3-hour documentary for PBS, was just unparalleled as far as an experience. It was really extraordinary. There have been so many highlights. Like I photographed Tom Brokaw for the cover of one of his books, and he is an icon. He is like an American legend, and just the most amazing and kind person. That family is, they're a gem of a family. They're really extraordinary people. And so it's just like all of it. I have to pinch myself and go, how did this all happen? Working with Robert Redford on The Horse Whisperer. And I was just like a kid. I was in my 20s.
Wow.
When I was their location scout, and they were like, we think we need you for about 2 weeks. And I worked with them on and off for 2 years. So it's just like, there's a lot. There was just, and it continues. The adventures continue, which I'm so grateful for. And I also recognize that you have to say yes to things that scare you, and you have to be open to it.
Yeah.
In a way. And I have a friend, my friend Cassidy Freeman. She and I talk a lot about, she's an actor and she just finished The Righteous Gemstones on HBO. And we talk a lot about like what projects to do and what projects to pass on, like when to say no and when to say yes. And I said, we were talking about like the trifecta of you have to have 2 of the 3. And one is people that you absolutely want to work with and are so excited to work with that you just can't imagine not working with them. The second thing is the project so incredible that you just can't imagine, like the opportunity in the project is so amazing that it will feed you in some way, or it'll be amazing to be a part of. Or it scares you, like it's going to ask you to grow. So the project, there's that. And then the third thing is the money. Is the money just too good to pass up? And I'm always like, it's got to have 2. It's got to have 2. Either a great project with really great money, but you're not so sure about the crew. Or it's great people and a great project, but money sucks.
Wait, you're saying that to make it worth it.
No, you have to have 2 of the 3.
2 of the 3
for a yes.
Yeah, that's so good.
It has to be either like people you love, really good pay, but the project's kind of like,
yeah,
I'm so on board with that.
Because you got to kind of.
So that's like the minimum. And if you hit the trifecta, if you hit all 3, then that's like the gold. That's the hell yes. But a lot of times, and even now we laugh and we're like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. But sometimes it's like, it's a little bit more nuanced. Like it's really hard to tell. Like the not a hell yes might be your fear. I'm afraid to do this project. I'm afraid it's out of my league, or I'm unqualified, and that's what's making it not feel like a hell yes. That's why I'm going to the trifecta of the 3 things, so that you can get into a little bit of an analysis.
Audrey,
and then there's a fourth, but that really doesn't play into it, but will this be an opportunity to expand your career? But sometimes I feel like those quote opportunities to expand your career aren't necessarily. You might think they are, but they're actually not. So that's why I like lean on the trifecta. It's like the people, the project, the budget.
I wish for those people that are listening, I wish we could apply this knowledge to when we start out. Because I found for myself, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I have had lots of conversations with friends. We often just go for everything because we're just trying to build our portfolios. We're trying to gobble up life experiences so we can be seen and validated, and it leads us to the next thing. I love what you just said because I think we don't have to do that starting out. Do you think we should?
I mean, when you're starting out and establishing your career, it's a little bit, it might be a little, there might be a little bit of an adjustment on the trifecta, only because you may not be, only because it might take you a while to build your baseline income. There in photography, there are certain, so in photography though, there are certain parameters of pay. If you're an editorial photographer, it's like the magazines pay what they pay. So therefore it's like in the trifecta with magazine work, because it doesn't pay to this level of commercial work, then it has to be the people in the project. Right. Because the pay is not going to be what you might get paid to do something else. So as you're establishing yourself, you just have to really learn about what the rates are. And you're rapidly trying to develop your craft and your skills.
Right.
So it just takes a while. For me, it took a long time to move to the point where I was shooting full time. That's not going to be the same with other people. I feel like there's a ton of opportunity for photographers right now, probably more than when I was coming up the ranks. But for that pendulum to shift to where I was shooting full time all the time, that took, I would say, at least a decade, probably a little bit more.
Wow.
Probably closer to 15 years.
Wow.
Again, probably because I was practical and I was doing all this art adjacent work that was paying my bills, and it was allowing me to like experiment and figure things out and develop my craft. But I was doing both for a long time.
And I think too, I'm just going to throw this out there, and I want to get to what I've seen and where I feel you're such an expert in having this conversation of burnout. Reason being is because I see a lot of women and men hustling, often not hitting the trifecta or the quadfecta, right?
The quad, I know the fourth one is like the outlier. It's like is this really going to like further your career?
Right. Yeah. And
maybe
we miss the mark on that.
Totally.
It's because we're so starving and so quick to want to get there. And you talk a bit about enjoying the creative process of it all. But I often find people, they're not starting off with a clear focus. And you somewhat had a pretty clear focus when you started off in life. You did have a dynamic approach to it, right? You wanted to do photography, you wanted to be in the creative realm, but you were more not focused on just one thing. You were able to open up and broaden your skill sets and explore all of it. Some people don't do that, and they find themselves driving it and taking everything and taking on and never saying no. And what I've seen is it often leads to a level of creative slumps, or I'm just not getting to where I need to go, so I need to switch industries. And sometimes that needs to happen, right? But I've seen a lot of people burn out before they even get there.
And the whole idea of getting there, you never get there.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Like you never get there. And the opportunity, I think the thing that's I'm going to back up to the fourth leg of the trifecta and like the whole idea of it'll further your career or whatever. The thing is, we don't have a crystal ball. So we don't really know that. Right. There's a lot of things that I've done purely because they sounded like fun or interesting or weird or whatever, that have played more for my career than anything I could have ever orchestrated or thought. So I definitely take the whole, like, it's going to further your career with a grain of salt. Okay. Because you just don't know that, because we just can't read the future. And I feel like in the whole like non-specialist approach or a fluid approaches. And hustling, so hustling, I think is probably considered male energy. And sometimes I feel rather than hustle, if you're feeling like the need to hustle, I don't know if it might be wise to step back for a second and reroute yourself in the process and what you're actually doing. Creating work, and now it's much easier to share work because of the internet and social media. I don't know. There's something about how the universe plays into all of it that you have to have some belief that you deserve to be doing, you deserve to be working in this way. And sometimes I think that we build up there's a lot of like conversation around the identity of an artist and what we deserve and don't deserve. And it's like huge varying degrees of what you're worth. Like, how do you value yourself? What is your worth? And are you asking for it? And in the hustle, I don't know.
I think it's interesting because I think you're going down a road of what a lot of people struggle with, and women, of not really defining. And I don't think you necessarily have to define what that is, but you do need to connect with your authentic self to determine what is it that fulfills me? What fills my cup up every day? But at the end of the day, when I go to sleep, do I feel good about what I did? Do I feel like what I did produced something? And if it did, whatever that something is, I think we struggle with sitting with that. And you just hit the nail on the head, stepping back and doing some reevaluation or analysis work.
Yeah, or just, I mean, it's funny because it's not, other people may not struggle with like value, like what's my worth, like disconnecting your own worth,
Right.
like personal worth from your work, from your pursuits worth. And then I think you have to always be open to expanding what that possibility is. And I'm like, there's part of me so I'm like, sometimes you have to take what you think that is and just automatically add 10% or 15% or 20% or whatever, because more than likely we're probably naturally undervaluing the work.
Yes.
So it's just, and burnout in a way can lead to reevaluating boundaries. And also, if you're moving, this is a whole topic. This is a whole topic. And I keep thinking of, there's a photographer, an educator named Chase Jarvis, who is like really a smart guy. And he's got a great podcast and a lot of wisdom for creatives. And there's just like, there's always like topics of establishing your worth, and that it's very hard to claim it. It's if you put a bid out for something, or if you price something at some amount, it's way harder to accept less and then build it back up with a client. It's better to say no. If a client can't, if they're like, that's too expensive, it's better to say, thank you very much. I hope you keep me in mind for the next project when maybe your budget will be different. Then to come down on the value and then try to slowly build yourself up. It's like and it gets into a whole thing of negotiating and like setting your prices and all that, which on some level like makes my head spin a little bit, because I feel as artists, I'm like, I just want to make the work. I just want to do these fun projects. I want to create things. But there's another sense of it that in order for that pursuit to be sustainable, that you do have to ask for some amount of compensation for what it is you're doing.
Yes.
And figuring that out, for me, it's always been a challenge.
It's
always been a challenge, and it's always changing, and
Yeah.
you're always growing, and you might burn out, and natural parameters might come in from that burnout that might make you reevaluate and readjust things. That's why I think that fluidity and self-reflection are really key to the pursuit of a creative life.
Yeah. I love what you just said.
And it's like flexibility, fluidity, reflection, perspective.
And I want to ask you, you've gotten to this point in your career that you've done all these amazing things. You have a portfolio of just awesomeness. And I've seen this with women where they've been in different industries for many years and they can pretty much write their ticket to do whatever they really want to do. And you said the trifecta at this point, you're probably getting things coming at you left and right. Now, how do you determine, because they're all probably pretty equal as far as maybe some a little higher than others for value, and now you're playing with people in the game of life that have been seasoned. They're also really good. And you've probably worked with a lot of them in the past. How do you determine what you take on and what you pass?
Some of it's just simply scheduling.
Scheduling. Okay.
If scheduling doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Okay.
So that's a lot right now, I think, is trying to figure out what my energy capacity, my output capacity, my creative capacity is, looking at the schedule and seeing.
Do you think that came from a moment in your life where you experienced some burnout?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. And then talk to me a little bit about how you recognize burnout, because I think that's a big thing for people to know about. Some people keep going like the Energizer Bunny, and they may be just so loving all the work that gets thrown at them, but they can't really tap into the fact that it's burning them out. How did you recognize burnout?
I had just a banner year in a year and a half in, I believe it was 2012/2013. Just incredible. I was working pretty much all the time. Every project was really great and really interesting. I was doing commissions. I was traveling the world with the PBS documentary. I had a 3-book deal that I was working on. So I was just like having the time of my life. And I came home from the last job at the holidays, and it was like I had all these crazy symptoms of autoimmune issues. And I just basically could barely move. And all the enthusiasm I had, once I came home and took a break for the holidays, I basically completely lost any enthusiasm or ability to pick up a camera and take an image. So it was a combination of physical and a creative, somebody turned off the light switch.
Oh,
And I just was like, whoa, this is serious. So I was like, maybe I just need a break. I'm just going to give myself some time to recover from the last year and a half of work. And in 3 months, it didn't get any better. And when the 6-month mark started coming up, I thought, am I going to have to find a new job? I'm not ready I can't retire. What am I going to do if I can't do the thing that I've always done? So I basically entered very gingerly back into the creative world through doing things that just sounded like fun.
oh,
Zero anything commercial or money related at all.
Like commitments that had some financial reward to them.
Zero. I like literally was like, I'm going to take a pottery class. I'm going to go paint. I'm going to take guitar lessons. I'm going to go horseback riding. I just was like, I'm going to just do things that sound like fun and we try to tap into a joy of creativity if I can.
Okay.
And just see where that leads. And what ended up happening is that I started taking guitar lessons, and that resonated with me in a similar way to when I first picked up a camera.
Okay.
And then I started writing music. And then I started recording music. And that sort of started to snowball. And all the other things fell off. Like I didn't pursue pottery. I didn't pursue painting. I was making music. I was learning to make music. I was learning to write songs. I was recording. I performed for my first time, which was crazy. And it was all just really fun. I had no idea if it had anything to do with anything with my career, but I reserved judgment on that. I just thought I am feeling compelled to do this, so I need to do this.
Wow.
And so I just kept doing it. And the next thing I knew, I had recorded an EP. And as I was thinking about the EP release, and I've been thinking a lot too about the relationship with art and commerce and music and commerce, and the fact that music is the most ubiquitous art form. It's the one that is a part of our lives the most, yet those artists, I feel like for the amount that their art is used, it's not commensurate
Okay.
with the level of expense and creativity across the board. There are some exceptions to the rule. If you're a big recording artist, maybe, but for most artists, it's not necessarily that way. And so I had co-curated an art show at the Stapleton Gallery in Billings that was an exploration of this, where we paired songwriters and visual artists and did a limited edition vinyl record with a limited edition that they basically like limited edition art pieces. And then we created an art inspired pop-up record store where all the items in the store were one of a kind pieces. And what we tried to do was recognize the music at the same level as the art.
Wow.
And basically the artists and the musicians shared in the collaboration and shared in the financial reward of that, so that it was like more commensurate with the actual work that they'd done. It was really fun. It was
really cool.
It was super cool. So that had always been in the back of my mind. And there were things that worked really well with that show. And then there were things that hadn't worked so well. That could have been that I'm like, we can improve on this. We knocked these things out of the park. These things we could have improved. And so when I was thinking about my own EP release, that was really on the back of my mind. And I decided that I wanted the release to happen in an art gallery, and that I wanted the art on the walls to be art. So what I ended up doing was creating a body of work that was inspired by the lyrics and the content of the themes and the spirit of the EP. I did hand-coded, handmade cyanotype prints in album format, 12 by 12. And then I had matching vinyl records, picture discs that matched the art in a gatefold. So it's like the pieces hung on the wall, but there was like a secret entrance or a secret opening where you could open the art and pull the vinyl record out. And the vinyl record matched the art on the front, but it hung on the wall. So it was both. And the pieces, instead of being a $30 vinyl record, it was a $2,500 piece,
Wow.
art piece that was hand done, cyanotype, embellished with 18 karat gold, and it all hung together. And then I took the images and did a limited release of 40-inch by 40-inch large scale prints. I think an edition of 5.
Wow.
And that's how I did the release. And what was so magical about the whole process and the idea of like why I'm such an advocate for follow your curiosity first and ask questions later. Because and a lot of people were asking me like, why are you doing this? Are you giving up photography? People want to know the end game.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the end game myself. I didn't want to put the pressure on it, that endeavor. But after I did the whole thing and I released the body of work, I recognized that there's no way I would have ever made that visual art had I not gone through this whole process of writing and recording.
Wow.
And there's just no way that would have ever emerged. And it gave me like a really different perspective. And I understood, looking in hindsight, the detour, like where, but I didn't even fully understand it because it's continued to have a life of its own.
Yeah.
Right now, it's like this. I have a song that's like moving into a documentary. I could have never have predicted that. So I feel like there's a real magic that there's magic that can happen if you don't get too hung up on your goals. If you really like bring yourself back to the process. For me, it was like the way out of burnout was a pursuit of joy. That's how I framed it. And then and because of that, I was able to connect back into my photography and why now I try to have like pretty strict boundaries on the amount of work that I do. And a lot of it means that it's like things don't work because they don't work in my schedule. And I have to be okay with that. You have to be like one of my fears. So there's always going to be fears as an artist. If you really look at things, even if you're flying high, when I was flying high and doing all these amazing projects, my big fear was the fear of saying no. My fear was that I would never, ever again get the opportunity to do whatever amazing thing if I said no, if I had some boundaries, drew some boundaries around that. And that fear is what drove me into the ground. That fear of saying no.
Wow.
That fear of thinking that I would never have that opportunity again. And that was a new fear.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, and I call it the more insidious fear, the fear that isn't necessarily 100% like apparent, right? It's more subtle.
Yes.
It's
That's
not the
why I
fear
wanted-
screaming in your face.
That's why I wanted to ask you, but you just answered all the questions I had ruminating in my head. You literally went through the whole gamut. And I was going to ask you during that 6 months time frame when you were struggling with some symptomology and reevaluating, I was wondering what the fear would be if you had any. Because at that point, if you couldn't do what you've been loving to do for many years and been successful at it, I would have this come to Jesus moment of, what am I good for now? Or what do I do now? It's all that I've known. It's all that I've loved to do. And I went out on top. Now what's next? But I think you've got your mom's influence where it was like that creative flow of just let it organically happen. Organically explore. And I'm wondering if there was any still resilience or you just opened yourself up to that naturally.
I didn't have a choice. I was either going to go get a job, and that didn't sound super appealing.
No.
Plus, I'm like, I don't know what my skill set would be. So I felt like I didn't have a choice. Like I basically had to figure out a way through, and I knew it had to be gentle.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't do my way out of it. There's like the allowing. Like there was no doing.
Yeah.
I had to just be like, does this sound like fun? Okay, this opportunity to go, like my friend, I have a really close friend who was like doing this pottery like class in fishtail. And it was so much fun. Pottery's definitely not my thing, but I really enjoyed it. It was just like the drive and spending time with my friend and having my hands in the clay and like throwing on the wheel, which I hadn't done in a really long time, in a few years. And yeah, so things like that. And then painting with my friends and drawing and trying to allow some amount of creative inkling or creative like entry or something in a way that was not about doing, not about achieving, not about goals, not about benchmarks, not about clients, just something that just would hopefully just inch the door open a tiny bit because the
Wow.
door was firmly shut.
Yeah.
And
I
there
think
was, and it's like, I did my way into that burnout. You can't
Yes.
do yourself out of it. You
No.
really have to take a different approach. And I
Wow.
suppose that could be the feminine energy of I'm just going to kick back and see what happens and see what opportunities come and like flow with the ones that feel like they could be fun or and not question it too much.
Wow. What great, for those folks that are listening to you talk, what great words of encouragement for people that are they're in it. They're in the trenches of it. And I feel, I don't know how you're going to escape life if you're if you're a person that likes to achieve things or we're all kind of doers in this world. I am one of those that's an extreme doer. You just gave me some really great nuggets to think about and to really digest because I've experienced burnout myself and it's awful. It's awful. And we have a propensity to go back to the same way that we've been doing things, doing again. And just listening to your story about how if you just allow, it opens yourself up to new exploration. Now you're in you're in the creative world, but you're in music now. And that was all new for you
Oh, it's so new.
and so exciting.
It's very unexpected. It's like the opportunities that have come through playing music have just been a little mind blowing. And it's not like I have a goal of being like a touring musician or I just am trying to just enjoy it. I enjoy one of the big surprises for me was I didn't realize how much fun I had. I didn't realize how much fun and how performing would resonate with me. How it scared, it was like the most terrified I've ever been. Hands down is the first time I stepped on a stage with a guitar and sang for people. And it was for a friend's, she was doing a CD release party. It was a sold out crowd. They're both pretty legendary. And they were like, we'll have your back. They're like, we think you should do this. They're like, you just do a couple songs and see how it goes. And I was terrified. And there was a few things that happened in doing that. That when you play music in front of people, it forces you into the moment. I think few things do. Maybe rock climbing might be one. I don't rock climb, but I imagine that rock climbing probably really forces you into a moment. Playing music for me forces me into a moment. It forces me to ground into myself. Like it's such a different experience for me. I don't even know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm like, this is a value because I am a person who is constantly on the move.
Yeah.
And to be forced to stop and ground and breathe and be fully in the moment and fully aware of the moment and what you're doing. And you have to be absolutely focused, or at least I do, because I'm a beginner. So I'm like, nothing comes easy. Like, I got to think about it all. I just was like, wow, that is a really unique and beneficial experience.
Yeah.
And if you can connect with anybody outside yourself, if anybody connects to the art, it is like an immediate and visceral gift that you don't get, or at least I've never gotten in any other way.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's super unique in that way. It's very not like visual art in that way.
Right.
It's super visceral.
Oh, you're amazing.
So thank you.
You're amazing.
I just feel like I'm just like anybody else, just trying to figure it out as you go.
But your ability to get through this pivotal moment of your life. You've had many pivotal moments in your life, and I'm thankful that you've shared those here in this space with me. But to be able to get through something that's really difficult and share that, and then also share what you learn from it and what can grow from it, it gives people hope. It gives people inspiration to think, shit, I'm going through this right now. It feels really hard and heavy and awful. And then they listen to your story. Beautiful things come out of it. Beautiful, amazing things come out of it. New gifts develop and new connections. And you've been there, done that. And I think you're legendary. And I think more people need to be in your light and learn more and hear your stories and share your truths, because it helps people. It helps women. It helps me. It helped me just to listen to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think about all the cliches. Cliches are cliche for a reason. And one of the big ones, my mom was always like, when a door closes, a window opens. And
Right.
when you're in the thick of it, you're like, really?
Yeah, really? This is hell. Yeah.
And then I sit back and I go, oh, that's true if you let it.
Yeah.
It's like you have to let go of what the door that closed. The thing is, you have to be able to like stop looking at that door and look around for the window.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I think, where we get hung up. That's why I think like sometimes when you're like super achievement oriented and goal oriented and something doesn't go your way, it's like really debilitating.
Yeah.
Because at least for me, I'm an Aries, so it's the ram. It's like we're stubborn. We will do our way through whatever. Perseverance is my freaking middle name. Like I can out problem solve the best of them. And there's some problems that are not meant to be solved. It's just simply a matter of stop looking at the closed door and start looking around for the one that's open. And when you see it, walk through it.
Oh, good. Yes. Amen to that. I love it. Now I got to ask you, we're getting to our last 3 questions. What do you have on the horizon? What's coming musically, photography, your work? What's coming? What's ahead for you?
Oh, this is an exciting year for me because since we have the grant for the film, the next few weeks are going to be fundraising, getting hopefully the last of the budget locked in so we can hit the ground running this summer, to film. I have my next book is coming out in September. We're really excited about that.
What's the title? Do you have a title?
It's called Modern West. We're returning back to the architectural space. We have a suite of design books, American Rustic, Rustic Modern, Cabin Style, and now Modern West is the 4th in the suite. We're so excited. It looks beautiful.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
And then in October, I'm in the Livingston Songwriter Festival, which is my first festival as a songwriter, which also is blowing my mind. In May, or I guess in 20 days, Steph Quayle, Stephanie was so sweet. She's such a good friend of mine and I love her so much. This is how we met. But she and I are doing a little evening with 25 young world changing CEOs and 25 of their mentors on a retreat. And we'll be sharing stories and playing music together about our experiences in the entrepreneurial space and creative space and the impact of having a Montana background, how that's informed what we do. So that's super exciting. Steph has a big benefit concert on May 3rd for suicide prevention. And then we'll be going into, she and I will be doing this show.
That's amazing.
And then I'm doing, this is one that's completely blowing my socks off. I am doing a benefit show at the Shane Center, the Shane Lalani Center of the Arts in June 27th with the legendary Dave Grusin and Joe Robinson. And Dave Grusin, for those of you who may not know who he is an Academy winner, Grammy winner, composer, pianist. He's legendary. He started his career with Andy Williams. He has scored more movie themes than you can possibly imagine, hundreds, including The Graduate, On Golden Pond, Tootsie, The Fabulous Baker Boys, The Firm. He worked with Cindy Pollock. He worked with Robert Redford. He is just a legend. And he has been making music for, 7 decades. He's turning 91 the day before the show.
Oh my God. And you get to perform with him?
Yeah.
Holy buckets.
I'm freaked out.
Oh, don't freak out.
I'm so excited.
You're going to be
so
amazing.
Excited. Oh, I'm so excited. I can't stand it. He's amazing. He's a beautiful pianist. He's still touring. He is still touring. He just did this winter. He did an Asia and Japan tour in California. He's just incredible. He's incredible. And so Joe Robinson, who's an Australian guitar virtuoso, who is also a friend of mine, is playing with us. And then we're flying up Dave's band, who's a Brazilian bass guitar player who lives in Miami, and Wes Rittenauer is flying up from LA to play drums.
Wow.
It's going to be extraordinary that evening.
Yes.
So I'm super excited for that.
Where can people get tickets?
The Shane Lalani Center of the Arts website.
The website. Okay, gotcha. Okay,
You
I
can
will
get
put
tickets
that in
for
the
that.
description of the
Yeah.
episode.
And we'll have some special guests that are secret, but
Okay.
you might know one of them.
Okay. How exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun evening. And so those are like the benchmark highlights, I think, for the year that are coming up.
When you said the gentleman's going to be has been touring since he's 90 years old. I just had a flash forward. I can see you being 90 years old and still doing all the things that you love to do.
God willing.
Yeah.
At a certain age, you just think every birthday is a complete privilege.
Oh, I know. I know.
They get less excited, less about the party, the more, wow, I'm still
made
here.
another year. I made another year and lived to tell about it. I'm so grateful. This is amazing. You got so many wonderful things on the horizon, and I hope people tap into that and come watch you perform and get your books because they're remarkable. They're beautiful. The forward, the way you wrote the forward is just stunning. The photography is gorgeous, just even in the Bison book. And you should be so proud of yourself. And I'm sure your parents are looking down and just so unbelievably proud of you.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I know my mom's cheering. I know they're all cheering. I feel it. I definitely feel it.
And I love your dedication. So that was just a beautiful little dedication in the beginning of the book. And I encourage people to read it. I do have my last 3 questions. And so the first one is, if your creative spirit had a soundtrack, what genre would it be? Folk with a twist, outlaw jazz, or experimental cosmic banjo?
Oh my gosh.
I know, how random.
Probably banjo.
Really?
Because I feel like banjo to me is always a funny instrument. There's a lot of jokes around banjo players and banjo. And on some level, it's just some things are just like comical. Like I'll be like, how am I in this situation? Which I'm like, is anybody else laughing?
Yeah. I could see you would be a fun person to hang out with. I think there's always stories to tell and always something you're like, let's go do this or let's go try this. You'd be
Yeah.
a fun person to hang out with.
I mean, so I just feel like, yeah, it's like the cosmic banjo.
I love it. I love
For
it.
sure.
Okay, I have another question. If you could go back and give yourself, your younger self, a single rebellion hall pass, what would you tell her to do that she didn't do?
Oh, God, that's a great question. That is a great question.
Is there anything you've always
I feel like what hindsight is 2020. And in some way you have to trust that like your life happened and unfolded in the way it was meant to be. But I feel like rushing to make a decision about my degree, I wish that I would have allowed myself some time to play and experiment.
Okay.
And I wish I would have tried more things before declaring a major. I wish I wouldn't have been so like goal and achievement oriented then. And it would have just given myself a year to just do a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Take an art class, take a film class, I don't know, maybe not. I think I was so wanting to like get into college and get my degree and get out. Let's get life rolling. Like when you're a kid, you're just super impatient. Like you cannot. Back then, the drinking age was 19, and it was just like you just couldn't wait to get out of high school, and then you couldn't wait to like be able to go to the bar without a fake ID.
Yep. There does that.
And you're just so in a hurry to grow up. And I just wish that the hall pass would have been like, here's however much money or whatever, take this first year and just try a bunch of things. You're forced to. You cannot declare a major. You are forced to try 10 different possibilities of what your major could be.
Oh, I like
or
that.
whatever. Just don't be in such a dang hurry.
Yeah.
So figure it out and get it all done.
Yeah. And you know what? You just gave me a little bit of stepping back. My son's graduating this year. And yeah, I don't expect him to figure it all out. But I do question whether or not we're pushing way too much to do something when really he doesn't quite know what that really is. And maybe some exploration would be pretty good for him. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I just think that it's hard you're so young. You're just a kid.
Yeah.
Like really, you're gonna decide your like whole and even when it's still like unpredictable enough. And then maybe, I don't know, but things then again, like architecture school, although I'm not an architect, really gave me some skills that came in useful later in life. And so things work out the way they work out.
Yeah.
So
that's what I think. Yeah.
you can't beat yourself too much on you should have done this or.
I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. Your response is perfect. All right. Our last question. We believe in amplifying the voices of remarkable women, and this is our signature question for the podcast. If you could pass the mic to a Montana woman to share their story on the IWD406 podcast, who would she be and why?
All right. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I would like to pass the mic to my really good friend, Sarah Andrews, who is a Montana girl. She's a good friend of mine. Man, I just love her to death. And she is inspiring. She is resilient. She's bright and articulate and ambitious. And she's doing things in the world of food and agriculture that I just find incredibly exciting. She's an entrepreneur. She started a company called Bumbleroot, which makes hydration drinks. Basically, it's a powder that you add to water. It tastes amazing. It's all organic, no fillers, sustainably and ethically sourced. And the base of it is dehydrated coconut water and baobab fruit.
Oh, wow.
And then she has all kinds of proprietary way of crystallizing fruit for the flavor. So there's no artificial anything. And the fruit is actually fruit. It tastes delicious. I'm just hooked. And the interesting thing is it's really high in potassium, which a lot of us can be depleted in potassium. My mom was super depleted in potassium. And when she started drinking Sarah's hydration drink, her potassium levels just went right to normal.
Oh, wow.
She's also in the middle of starting it's a startup. The idea is she'll be able to explain this better than me, but it's basically an aggregation facility for sustainable regenerative beef. Because the problem is that all the producers, or most of the producers of sustainable regenerative beef, are small producers. So they cannot, say Timberland wants hides or Whole Foods wants regenerative beef, one grower cannot supply the total amount for an order for National Whole Foods.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So the idea would be, this would be almost like a co-op processing facility, shipping facility, aggregation facility, to where producers could send their cow or their meat to this particular place, and then they would prepare, do the butchering, take the orders. So I hope Sarah will be able to speak to it better than I. This is my terrible paraphrasing.
No, it's
incredible.
Yeah.
And they're set to build it in Big Timber, Montana. So it'll provide jobs to a small rural community. And she's been working with the local people on the ground, as well as like federal grants, state grants. She's just amazing. And I know that the conversation you have with her around all this is going to be incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how she gets it all done, because frankly, running one company, I think is...
Yes, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yes.
And to get this other dream and startup off the ground as well, she does it with grace and humor and a smile on her face. And her attitude is always positive. She is a ray of sunshine.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. And interesting when you have big movement or community changers, impactors, like Sarah Calhoun is one, changing the economic landscape of Red Lodge. Somebody like her, and then somebody like your past the mic, and say her name again.
Sarah Andrews.
Sarah Andrews. There's a special quality that they have within themselves.
Yeah.
And you definitely need to understand people and how to make that change happen. Because they are goal focused. This is what they want to do, and they know the bigger picture. But some people don't think that way. So they have to be able to word things a certain way. They have to have conversations a certain way. So she is going to be really fascinating to chat with.
Yeah, and she long ago started her career, I believe, in Washington, D.C. I think she worked for Senator Baucus. And so she has this also very unique capability of communicating with all kinds of people, no matter what your political persuasion, and bringing people together.
Yeah.
For a common goal. And I think that's just a lost skill, especially in a climate where everybody just feels like they're just yelling at each other.
Yep.
And I just think it's so admirable. And she's so much fun. She's just so much fun and so dear.
Thank you so much for passing the mic to her. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I know you're going to have an amazing conversation with her. She is such a wonderful person.
Oh, that's wonderful. I just want to say you're a wonderful person. And I know your time is very valuable, and you've got a lot ahead, a lot of things that you're working on. And just to spend some time with me in this space is a very a special honor that I'm going to say I'm really grateful for. And I just feel like I said, I'm sitting with somebody that's just made history for Montana women. So thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
all that
Thank
you've
you.
done.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me the platform to yammer on about creativity and fear and fluidity. And probably at some point, I'm sure I stuck my foot in my mouth.
You didn't. You didn't.
Because if I didn't, that'll be a dang miracle. But
Good.
to all the people in their pursuit of creativity and life and trying to figure things out, I just would love to end with part of the magic is not knowing everything and not knowing everything that's going to happen. That just is what makes it fun. And Cassidy, my friend Cassidy and I, we have a saying also that is, we say, life, the ultimate cliffhanger.
Oh, I love that.
It's like framing it into movie terms, but it's true. So it's just, I love talking about it. I feel like I could talk about those things all day.
And you should. And I am going to leave it at that.
Okay, wonderful.
And done.
A special thank you to our podcast guest. You can find all of her links in the description of this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit subscribe. You will be notified of future podcast guests. Follow us on our social media platforms and stay tuned for our next podcast chat with an amazing Montana woman.